Welcome everyone to another enlightening episode of Healing Pathways, Navigating Transformation with Juanita. I'm your host, Henry Woodcock. Joining me is a transpersonal therapist and founder of Energy Gateways, Juanita Puddifoot. Today we have a particularly intriguing and perhaps a bit unsettling topic, spirit attachment. But before you hit the panic button, stay with us as we dive into this fascinating subject with our guest therapist, Juanita. Welcome, Juanita.
Thank you, Henry. It's good to be here and talk about this, as you say, fascinating topic.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly are a spirit attachment?
This is a really good question. Let's start with the two main categories, which are human spirit attachments and non-human energy attachments. And then we can break these down further. When we talk about human energy being attached, this includes obviously loved ones who've died and passed on into the spirit realm, their spirit energy. Could be family members, could be parents or uncles or aunts, could be grandparents, or even sadly friends who have died and passed into the spirit realm. Their energy can become attached. And then there are the residues from our ancestors who we do not know, that we've never met, and their energy can be attached. Then there's the spirits of people who may have known us and died, but we didn't really have a relationship with them. So such as people like neighbours, maybe you had an impact when you were a teacher or at work somewhere on somebody else and they remember you and they've died. Or it could be that you were kind or helped somebody in some way. And then the last section is really people who are complete strangers to us. So we might not even know them at all. They never figured in our lives, but their energy, their spirit energy becomes attached to us. Now, the next category is actually non-human. So literally means sentient beings or spirits or energies that are not human and have not had a human life. This is quite a broad category with such things that people may have heard of, such as earth beings, the little people, the pixies, the elemental sentient beings of nature, and plant energies. These have awarenesses, are sentient, and have a different sort of consciousness and think and behave in a different way to humans. Though interestingly, some clients come into a session already talking about feeling they're aware of something with them, while other clients obviously come completely unaware until we uncover it during sessions.
That sounds both fascinating and a little scary. Should people be fearful of this topic?
Well, like life in general, as we're looking for changing something negative in our life when people come for sessions. So it may come up in the session unexpectedly that there is a spirit attachment or a non-human energy attachment. And it's always important to approach this subject with compassion and not fear, because the goal is to help both parties, so to speak, to have release from each other. For the client to understand why and how they picked up this attachment and explore what are the influences, possibly both positive and negative, and then obviously focus on what will help release this spirit energy, this energy attachment, and what doesn't belong to them. Spirit attachments can be positive, such as the spirit of your uncle who loved you dearly is still trying to guide you in your life, bringing love and inspiration, and yet they are still a spirit attachment and really don't belong to you. It is really the negative influences that we work with using deep memory process, and to help people and clients obviously release these, find out why they're attached, and then move forward in their life without these influences.
You mentioned human and non-human spirit attachments. Could you explain more about the differences?
Sure. As I've already mentioned, human spirit attachments are spirits that were once people, known or unknown to us. For example, I once worked with a young man whose close friend had died in a motorbike accident. When he'd heard of his friend's death, he went to the site to lay flowers and say goodbye. There, the young man felt he was having a conversation with his dead friend in his mind, in his head. Then he left and carried on with his life. This incident had been a few years ago by the time the young man came to see me. He'd started to develop physical symptoms which doctors could not explain.
Well, that's quite a story. How did you help him?
In our session, we discovered that his friend's spirit, who died from head injuries and interestingly enough had damaged one of his eyes, had become attached to him, causing issues with his eye today. In this session, there was a need to help release emotions, be able to help both parties express things that they wanted to say to each other. Then the spirit of the dead friend could move on. In working with spirit attachments, it is important to hear both sides of the story. When they first made contact, what attracted the spirit or energy to the living person, and what the spirit gains from being with the person. In this particular case, the spirit of the dead friend actually still felt alive. He didn't feel dead. So we had to convince him that he was actually dead. Then it's easier to help both parties let go of each other. Often the mistake many therapists make is approaching this type of work from fear, trying to exorcise the spirit. This can lead to more issues and reluctance of the spirit to move and can make them hide deeper within the client. Compassion is needed to support both parties to let go and move on.
Interesting. Can you tell us more about spirits who don't know the dead?
Yes, this is another fascinating aspect of working with spirits. Some are not aware they're dead, and sometimes they're not aware they are attached to a living person. Even though they are dead and the spirits are still carrying their memories, feelings and thoughts, and for some it's as if they're still alive, they have physical sensations. For others, they are stuck repeating over and over again any upset, trauma, loss, grief, anger, rage. And for others, they can also be confused about their state, not sure where they're alive, dead, or where they are in fact. Helping a spirit know they are dead is an essential step to work with before anything else. In the spirit realm, there are many different levels of awareness. And there are spiritual teachers, helpers and healers at different levels. And these can be accessed in sessions to be with spirits, to help them feel supported, to feel cared for. Also, if a spirit had a family and they're all dead, we can help them be reunited with their loved ones and guided to the realm of healing.
Do you have any more examples?
Yes, I had a client who visited ancient ruins overseas on holiday, and at the time felt a strong connection to the place, a sense of awe and wonder. You know, that feeling at home to some place you've never been to. Anyway, unknown to them, the client picked up a spirit from the site. So the client came for a session, and during this we discovered a spirit. And when we explored what the spirit was doing, they were confused and as if he was feeling alive and going about his normal routines, walking to his place of work, going to his favourite places to eat, and then going home to his family, wife and children. It was when I helped the spirit explore his life and moved him to the memories of his death that the spirit began to realise he was in actual fact dead. This took some time to convince the spirit because, listeners, as you can imagine, if somebody was to tell you you were dead now, would you believe them? Would you accept this straight away? I don't think so. So it takes skill to be able to help a spirit know that it's actually dead and attached to a living person. So as anyone would, it took time to absorb this information, and he wanted to have proof. And that's what we did until he accepted he was dead. Once we got to this stage, we helped the spirit remember his death, be reunited with his family, and then he could transcend to the spirit realm.
That's incredible. Now, what about non-human attachments? How do they differ from human ones?
Non-human attachments can come from nature spirits, those associated with plants, trees, or other natural elements, as well as entities from other dimensions, including what some people might call alien beings. Their energies have their own life cycles, and there are numerous different reasons for why they attach to humans.
Could you share an example of a non-human attachment?
Certainly. I worked with a client who had a persistent ankle problems. Again, no medical reason that could be found. What we discovered during the session was that they had an earth gnome, and this had accidentally jumped into the client's ankle, thinking it was his home. The gnome had cleared what he thought were roots of plants from the roof and the sides, and these were in fact the muscles and tendons of the client's foot. When he became aware that he was inside a human, he did become really angry, and also angry about the person having destroyed his home. Before he would leave, we did have to do a lot of dialogue work between the client and the gnome. Things such as apologies, forgiveness to be freely expressed, and a discussion about how the gnome could move on and the client's ankle could be restored. Very important to actually work with how can we heal if there's any residues that the spirit has caused, any problems that the spirit unknowingly has caused with the living client. Very important to work with those. These spirit or energy attachments can affect our health over time if not addressed. So really important work to do.
That's fascinating, Juanita, and quite a lot to take in. How can people know if they might have a spirit attachment?
Yeah, this is a really tricky issue. A lot of the time people come up to me and say, well, Juanita, can you see if I have a spirit attachment? And honestly, the best approach I tend to take is a very practical one. First, check out any physical issue or anything with your GP and health professionals. Following this, look for, can you see anything on a mental, emotional, or physical level that could be connected with something that's recently happened in your life? Then go to therapy. Find someone like myself who works with spirit attachments and explore the issue that is coming up in your life, the symptoms you have, the feelings you have, the thoughts you have, and physically what's going on. And find somebody who works with spirit attachments, ancestors, past lives, and trauma, such as a deep memory process DMP practitioner.
This has been an eye-opening conversation, Juanita. Thank you so much for shedding light on spirit attachments and how they can impact our lives.
Thank you, Henry. It's been a pleasure to discuss this with you and our listeners.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us on Healing Pathways, Navigating Transformation with Juanita. If today's episode resonated with you, don't hesitate to reach out to Juanita. Her work is transformative and she's here to support you on your journey. Until next time, this is Energy Gateway signing off. Take care. For more detailed information, visit the website energygateways.com or on YouTube search for Energy Gateways with Juanita.